Welcome back to the wood shop, everybody. Today we do a complete overview and honest review of our Woodmaster dual drum sander. Stay tuned. So about 2 years ago, with the increase in our demand, we knew that it was time for a larger sanding implement. We have the Rotax 7-inch sander from Festool, the small sander. We spend hours of time sanding wood in the shop. So we were looking at belt sanders and drum sanders and shopping the market new and used. There is an endless amount of products out there. So originally we were looking at a large used belt sander. And of course, if you've ever shopped around for belt sanders, you know that the commercial options are huge. They're super tall, some of them upwards of 4,000 pounds, and usually they're all 3-phase powered motors. So we kind of wanted to look for a smaller, more cost-effective option that ran off of 220 volts in our standard electrical service panel here. We found Woodmaster and instantly we were drawn to their 50-inch dual drum sander. We do a ton of dining tables here at Schooner Creek Designs. We do a bunch of live edge work, and so having a 50-inch sanding capacity was essential because really everything we have is at least 30 to 40 inches wide. So after doing a little bit of research, I found like 1 or 2 videos of reviews on YouTube about the product itself. So really, the reason why we bought it is their customer service at Woodmaster is awesome. I got to a real person right away, and I talked to him for about an hour about all the different components to the Woodmaster 50, how we would use it, and making sure that it was a right fit for us. The cool thing about Woodmaster is they are the manufacturer, so you're not buying from a third party. What I really valued about it is the person that I talked to was extremely knowledgeable about everything about this product. They are all about customer service, and the attention to detail definitely shows in the way you talk to them. So as I said before, this is a dual drum sander, obviously meaning that there is 2 drums, one in the front, one in the back. The access panels are concealed by 2 very simple wing nuts. And as you can see here, they have these 6-inch diameter drums wrapped in whatever sanding paper you choose. Currently right now, we have an 80 grit sandpaper roll on the front and 120 grit on the back. They're really easy to change, and Woodmaster even threw in 2 extra rolls of sandpaper upon our order. I think they were running some sort of promotion at the time. The dust collection system in the drum sander works surprisingly really well. As you can see, I have 2 5-inch diameter hoses running into our whole dust collection system. That's the 3-horse dust collection system from Jet over there, and it does a really good job at collecting the dust. You can see there is some small particulate dust that kind of falls into the conveyor belt, falls onto the ground, but really there's no clouds of dust. The dust collection system really does a great job. On the front side here, as you can see in the other drum, is that 80 grit roll. So when we feed in any piece of material, it's getting hit with a more aggressive grit first, and then a less aggressive grit as it goes through the back of the tail of the machine. We have 2 drive rollers in here that do an awesome job at keeping the material depressed against the conveyor belt and feeds it all at a really even speed all the way through. We overall have been super happy with the finishing level of just the drum sander itself. So really, after a piece is super flat and sanded through several times, we only have to really sand with a 220 and a 320 before we finish the majority of our pieces of furniture. The whole drum sander is powered off of this 230 volt, 40 amp, 7.5 horsepower motor. It's really quiet and super easy to use. The motor powers, obviously, both of the drums, as well as the drive roller system, which is on this rubberized conveyor belt, which really seems to grip all of your work pieces really well. We haven't had any issues or any real fear of any major kickback, and we have sanded several thousand linear feet of material in here over just about the year that we've had it now. The difference between a drum sander and a belt sander is exactly the name. A drum sander uses these drums wrapped in sandpaper to sand the surface of any workpiece. The belt sander uses a belt of sanding paper ran around several drive rollers to give a flatter surface of sanding against any of your workpieces. The only drawback that we have found to this machine is it is just not super aggressive. So it has forced us to be much more accurate with our glue ups, with our laminations, and with our pre-sanding so that we can get a really good flat finish. The key for us though is the width. When we get a good glue up, it comes out really flat. You can tell right away that with several passes through the drum sander, the finish on the top of the wood is razor flat. It's impressively flat, and it has upped our game considerably having a drum sander in our arsenal. We got into this machine for just right around $9,000, including shipping and freight. One of the drawbacks is when we were ready to order, we found out because it's direct from the manufacturer, there was a 16-week lead time. So it took about 4 months for this machine to arrive. Weighing in at close to 1,400 pounds, this thing is not easy to move. Thankfully, we had a pallet jack on site that we could slide right under these lower bars, lifted it up, and slid it right into place. But this thing is not going anywhere now. The sandpaper is actually surprisingly really easy to remove and reapply. The key is to keep the sandpaper that you're taking off and use it as a template to cut your angle on the new piece of sandpaper you're putting on. Right here, you'd lay it flat against the roller, and it helps to have two people, one person rotating the roller, and you standing here directing the sandpaper onto the roller in a really smooth and seamless way. At either end, you can use a duct tape or a strapping tape that just holds the ends on, so as it's spinning at full RPM, your ends aren't coming off. We have never had, in the year that we've owned this machine, any significant issues. It has taken some getting used to. The upwards and downwards adjustment comes from this hand crank here on the back side, which is the side you insert the piece of wood on. And although it's pretty easy to move up and down, it definitely takes getting used to how much you can elevate at one time in between sanding passes. On the front of the machine, right next to the vertical arm adjustment, Woodmaster includes a digital gauge. This is super helpful in finding the thickness of the material and being sure that you're not raising it too much at one time so that you don't bind up the belt-driven motor. We have done that a few times where you hear the sanding start to stop and slow down and the belts start to squeal. This kind of just takes some getting used to as we use planers and other equipment all the time. New equipment always just takes time to get used to. As you can see, there's a variable speed motor for the drive roller and conveyor belt. We usually leave this probably anywhere from 2 to 5 feet per minute as we're sanding most of our wider, larger pieces of material. The adjustable speed will allow you to go anywhere from 0 to 25 feet per minute depending on the application and the material that you're sanding. The vertical adjustment allows you to sand any piece up to 5¼ inches, and really to stay safe, you want to stay at about 49 inches of width. For us, that's really no problem. It's pretty rare for us to sand any dining table or any surface over around 46 inches. We have sanded full width pieces of material, and it really does a great job as long as you go slow and you're not being too aggressive on your vertical adjustment. I have some white oak back here. We have some white oak here that I'm going to pass to the sander just to give you an example of, one, the sound and the quality of the finish coming through with just a couple passes on the drum sander. This right now is 18 inches wide. It's about 3 feet long, and it's 5/4 oak that has been glued together that are going to be interior panels for a cabinet that I'm working on right now. We have this piece of white oak, and we're just going to do a quick sanding on it. I'm just going to put a pencil mark all the way down the piece so you can see how evenly the drums sand this piece. What we're going to do is we're going to bring it up. To get close to the piece of material. Here, with the lower on button, it turns on the sanding rollers and the drive rollers themselves. On our adjustable speed of the conveyor belt, we'll turn it on to what I normally sand it at. We'll pass it in, and as it catches the drive rollers, you can raise the vertical adjustment until you feel the sanding start to happen. Right there, you can just barely hear the sandpaper engage. So what we'll do is we'll wait for it to come to the other side. Now that we set our initial depth on that pass, we're going to bring the drive roller up just about maybe 1/6 of a turn and send it back through. Right away you can hear the front 80 grit drive roller and sand roller engage. And then you'll be able to hear the rear 120 grit drum engage. We'll pass it back through one more time. As you can see here on this chunk of white oak, that was just 3 passes. The first pass was to set the level of our vertical adjustment to engage the sander. The second was an active sanding pass, and the third a bit more aggressive. All of our indication markings with our pencil are completely gone, and the top of this white oak is razor flat. Now all we'd have to do is hand sand this with 220 and 320, and this specific piece is ready for finish. The Woodmaster 50 has cut out several of hours of work in our shop. While it still definitely takes work to get the material to this point and pass it through manually, it's way better than sanding by hand for several hours at a time. It also gives you a super clean and consistently flat finish all the way across your boards. All in all, we've been extremely happy with the Woodmaster 50. And again, this is not a paid sponsorship. We are not sponsored by Woodmaster. We just found them while we were shopping for a drum sander and felt like it was the right way to go. The customer service was awesome. Their transparency with how long the build was going to take, how long it would take to get to us, and the shipping and freight were super straightforward. Like I said, we got ours in about 16 weeks. That was the current amount of demand that they had at the time. So make sure you call Woodmaster and check with them about current lead times. If there's something that you really need done quick, you'll have to check with them for an accurate time. Like I said, one of the only drawbacks is the fact that it doesn't take a ton of material away. It's not super aggressive. But that's not what drum sanders are really made for. It's made for putting a flat and consistent finish across the whole piece of wood. This is a super cost-effective way for a commercial carpenter to get into a commercial quality finishing tool for under $25,000, $30,000 of what other commercial drum sanders cost. Again, this is not a belt sander. And if you guys still don't know what the difference between drum sanding and belt sanding is, there are a ton of YouTube videos talking about the differences, the pros and the cons. For us, the dual drum sander works just fine, and we do a pretty high volume of woodworking projects every single year. I would absolutely recommend this tool to anybody who is looking for a wide capacity, efficient, quiet, and easy to use piece of equipment. It's really pretty intuitive after taking about a month of figuring it out, and really has done an incredible level of finishing for all the pieces of wood that we've put through it. I feel like it's really boosted our game into another level of quality since we purchased it. And now after having it for a year, really, it has just become something we use every single day in the shop. No matter if it's a small trim piece, a full-size panel for a piece of cabinetry, or an entire dining tabletop, we use the Woodmaster 50 for pretty much everything wood related. Like I said earlier in the video, we shopped around for quite a while, probably 6 to 8 months, looking for the right piece of equipment for our shop. I am super happy we chose the Woodmaster 50. And if you look at the Woodmaster line of products, they have drum sanders ranging, I think, from 14 inches all the way up to the 50-inch drum sander. It has been a huge advancement in our level of quality. I would absolutely recommend this tool to anybody. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful and hope it pointed you in the right direction on your search for looking for a drum sander. If you guys found this video helpful, please hit that like and subscribe button. We'll see you guys on the next one.